right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. My name is Justin Jeffers, and I am an evangelist at Amazon Alexa, and I teach people how to build Alexa skills. And this is the office hours for Alexa Conversations. And we are rapidly approaching the deadline. And over the weekend, I saw on Slack many of you have been working really hard and are in the process of submitting your skills and get them certified. Data-driven skills says hello, waiting on pins and needles to see if my skill gets certified. Congratulations on that. Glad that you've got your skills submitted. So this is the last office hours that we'll have on Twitch before the deadline. So if you have any questions, please, drop them in the chat and I will get to them. While we do that, I wanted to draw to your attention that if you're not on Slack, you should definitely join the Slack, especially since, if you have any questions that you still need answered after office hours today, you can definitely go to the Slack room. One thing that I've been getting emailed about, how we send out the little email alerts to everybody every week saying, hey, we've got Alexa Conversations office hours, or join the Slack. People have been saying, hey, I'm having trouble logging into the Slack group. And so one thing that's a little bit confusing is if you've never used Slack before, is it'll ask you for a username and password. And it's like, well, I don't have a username and password. I'm creating a new account. So what you do is you enter in your username, you enter in a password, and if you haven't created an account yet, there's no create account button, so that if you don't have an account, that password that you enter will become the password of the account that you're creating. Otherwise, you'll use the username and password that you've already been using, and it will just log you in. So it's a little confusing in that regard. And so whenever people ask me that, I've been emailing them instructions on how to get into the Slack group. So hopefully if you're stuck trying to get into the Slack group, hopefully that helps. Just wanted to give that instruction. So yes, if you have questions, please share them in the chat. Data-driven skills says thanks for all your help. Yes, and thank you for all your hard work that you've put into building skills on Alexa, and challenging yourself to build with something new, which is Alexa Conversations, which is really cool. There's a lot of stuff that is new and exciting, and you're getting to see and use technology as it's growing and making the platform better. Okay, so one thing I want to draw to your attention, since I haven't had any questions come through, AnyRudy over the weekend posted this really great post in the Slack group. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this link and send it to you all. So this is great. This has some common validation issues. So this is in the validation errors channel, and it's pinned. So, one of the things that we've seen a lot of people reporting are, hey, I'm building my skill and I get this error message and it says missing request template v2. And so it's like, oh, well, what does this mean? And so, he's got a sample of the error message here. So then it's got an example of what had happened. So I'll go ahead and read through some of this, but especially since we haven't had any questions come through, I'm just going to go through the items that are in this validation errors list, and then we'll keep moving through. So in this particular one, it says annotation of request for argument name with slot type name to a response is missing from the sample dialogues and must be added. And so that's the sample, and then in a case, this one is using city name for the argument name and the slot type name. So this is probably coming from like the WeatherBot example or something like that. But it says one of the ways that you'd want to address this is to check to ensure that the Alexa turn that requests for arguments used in dialogues is used in at least one sample dialogue. So like here is the sample dialogue here, and they have a get weather API that's going to take 2 required slots, city name and day of weeks, and this is the dialogue that was authored. So you've got, what is the weather for which city? Seattle. Weather in Seattle is 34 degrees. So you'll notice that the get weather API has 2 required arguments, city name and day of weeks, and the sample dialogue is only asking for which city, and the user didn't provide a day of the week. So there's no sample dialogue line that requests that other day of the week. So the way how you would fix that is, after the user tells you the city, you come back and have Alexa say, well, what day? So you're going to request the day of week argument, and then you have the user give it. All right, so that's going to be an inform, and then you have your API success that comes back. So that's one way how to fix this particular issue that comes across. And then you've got the maybe other cases where the error message might require additional dialogues to be written. For example, if the get weather API result returned the zip code of the city as a return value, and you wanted to call another API call called set default zip code right after get weather to set the user's default zip code used for the weather prediction in the future, the dialogue would look something like this. So this allows you, to streamline the interaction later on, right? So this is really great. So that way you don't have to keep asking over and over and over again, or if the user doesn't provide a zip code, you can default to the one that was previously given. So in that example, what is happening is that when you, at the end, you'll set up a call to get the weather API. So this is what is going to be called. So you'll call the get weather API, you'll pass it to city, you'll pass it the days of the week, and then it will return a zip code, and then you're going to call another API, which is going to be the set default zip code, and you'll pass it the zip code that was returned from the get weather API. So so that would be how you would do that. And in the user interface, you'd have to go through and set up another API that's going to call afterward. So Anyroot here is just annotating the fact that you would need to call another API to do that here. Let's see. The API is being called immediately on the first turn. Hey Joel, how's it going? Thanks for tuning in. And also Joel, thank you for all of your help. It hasn't gone unnoticed that you've been very helpful and vocal in the Slack. So thank you for answering people's questions. I've been going through the validation errors post that Anirudh posted over the weekend, which I think is very, very helpful. And we were going over one of the particular error messages that people have been seeing, which is the missing request template v2. And then we were following up with a couple other things. I'm going to skip over this other part where we're showing how to add extra, how to call another API afterward to save the zip code and go into error number 2, and then we'll discuss this one. So this one says missing dialogue annotation. So what is this? Well, here's an example developer facing message. So it would say dialogue, and it says the name of the dialogue doesn't have annotation. Please follow the guide to annotate it. So that's the generic message. And then, with a hard example here, we've got get weather with arg. So let's just pretend you have, this is probably the WeatherBot API or WeatherBot example that is generating this one. But whatever your dialog that doesn't have an annotation, its name would appear here. And then it would say, please follow the guide to annotate it. And so if you would see here, it says, if you see this, check if every sample dialog turn, both user and Alexa, are annotated in the UI. Ensure that there is a green check mark for every turn in the dialog. So when you're in the user interface, if you haven't properly annotated every single line of the dialog, there will be like, in fact, let me log in real quick, and I'm gonna switch away from this screen to another screen while I log in here, so I don't share my personal information with you all. Okay, once we get logged in, we will do this. Oh, one word of warning. Hopefully it won't happen now, but they're doing a fire alarm like check of my apartment this week, and I'm not sure if they're doing it today or tomorrow. They're like doing different floors and different buildings, and so if the fire alarm goes off during this office hours, I apologize in advance. I don't have to evacuate. They're just going to open my door, see if the alarm is going off, and then leave. It's going to take like 30 seconds for them to do it, but if I hear the fire alarm go off, I will hit the mute button. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. So okay, let's see. Oh, and I logged into the wrong account while I was chatting. Let me log out of this one. This one doesn't have any Alexa conversation skills. Let's use this account. Okay. So here we go. All right. Oh, this one's called Pet Match Office Hours. Great. Okay. We'll switch back over here and move this over here. So what the directions is, oops, that's interaction model, Alexa conversations. So what the post here is talking about is these green check marks here. So if you added a turn and, this is an extra turn, Alexa says this is the result of calling an API, right? I mean, you would actually have something real here, but I just wanted to demonstrate that, what you would see is these blue exclamation points, meaning that, oh, hey, you're not done. You haven't finished like annotating this part of the dialogue. So, it's recommending that you go through, you check to make sure that each of the check marks is green, and then let's see. Andy says the current developer portal will not automatically sync the dialogues and API arguments if the API definition section is updated. Note editing a conversation specifications across multiple tabs is currently not supported. So if you open the build tab in another tab and like make a change over here, like let's say you go to your API definition, you make a change to your API, then you come back over here and hit save and build, it's not gonna know that you've made a change over here, and that could also cause some problems. So be careful with that. And then the other common error message that people see, and looks like we're getting some questions in the chat here, which is good. I will get to these in a moment. So error number 3 is mismatch argument size. So the developer facing error message says dialog name, API name, only has number of arguments in definition, arguments in its, but the number of variables assigned in the dialog variables are assigned to it. So if you replace the placeholders with an actual thing, it would say dialog name, record favorite color, so that's the name of the dialog, dash, then record color, so that's the name of the API. Only has one argument in its definition, but 2 variables are assigned to it. So there's multiple variables. So this one says the note, editing conversation specific specifications across multiple tabs is currently not supported and will cause errors. So that's typically a cause of it. So coming here and editing, and adding an argument, or not adding the argument here, but then requesting multiple args for that API in one tab and not updating the variables in another tab can cause those things to go out of sync. So it says, if you see this error multiple times, you might want to confirm the changes by deleting the API from the responses first, and then add it back, and then update the arguments in the response template. So I thought this was a really helpful post, and that's one of the reasons why I shared it out in the chat. And for those of you who tuned in late, I'm going to share the link again, and then I will start addressing some of the questions that we've gotten here in the chat this morning. So let's see, let me copy this. This is from, hi Oxygen Box, thanks for tuning in. And I'm not sure how to pronounce your name here, Dilip Mariah, I don't know, sorry for mispronouncing your name in advance. I am facing an issue in getting the description for my recommendation in the final audio response. Here's the Json input, okay. And let's see, do you have any other information? I am facing an issue in getting the description. Here's the JSON. So you have an API invoked, you have a request ID, you have a timestamp, locale, and here's your request. I see. You have a name and your arguments. All right, I'll need a little bit more information here as to what could you follow up and say what's happening? Are you getting an error message? This is helpful to have the request that comes in. You have an API request that's coming to the get description API. You have an argument that is called recommendation result. It's got a name. It's got an AMG 171. So I imagine what you're trying to do is to take this value and look it up in a database somehow and return a response. That's what I imagine you're trying to do. Okay, here we go. Dilip says, yes, I get the error. Info error handled, type error, cannot read property description of undefined. Okay. So I'm going to share with you a link to a video I did a couple of weeks ago on Twitch on how to debug your skill. Let's see if I go here. Ooh, I don't want that to echo. And let's go to videos. We have 40 minutes and I don't really have a whole lot of time to go in and demonstrate how to set this up, but we have a video that I did, debugging Alexa skills. Here we go, copy that link, paste this in here. If you watch that video, you can see several ways that you can use to debug your skills. If you're using a Lambda function, you can use, and you're using Node.js, you can also log the CloudWatch using Python, but I don't know the function that you would call. Whatever logging function that you would use in Python, you would use that. But in Node.js, you would say console.log, and then you go to the, print out whatever you need in the console log, and then you go to CloudWatch, and from there you can grab and look at the errors. If you are using Visual Studio Code, there is a really cool plugin that you can use where you can actually attach and redirect all of the requests sent to your skills backend to your local desktop, and you can set breakpoints, and that's really, really helpful because you can actually trace through and see what's happening. And so your error message that you shared with me here, where it says type error cannot read property description of undefined, means that you're trying to access description somewhere in your code, and the value of it is undefined. So what I imagine what you're trying to do is you're you've done something like this: handler input dot request, no, API request. Actually, I think it's request envelope. I'm trying to do this off the top of my head. Envelope dot API, might be request. Yeah, there we go. Dot API request. Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head if you need this request here, or if it's just API request. I guess I could look here. Design/AC GitHub. And I just want to refresh my memory if it's just request envelope.api response or API request, or if it's request. This one will be easier to find it in its smaller code. Let's see. Okay, yes, it is dot request. And then you, okay, cool. So yeah, request envelope dot request. And then there's a function here that they created called get API arguments. But yeah, so anyway, what I think you're trying to do is you're trying to then, like you capture your argument, recommendation result dot name. So you're getting that name, you're passing it to somewhere, and you're like, let's say you did this, data equals, and then you've got some database that you've passed that value to, and then you're calling dot description, and it's throwing this error. It's like you can't read property of undefined. So this value that's coming back from your database is undefined for some reason. That's what I think is happening. So if you go through your code and try to figure out where you're getting the thing that you're accessing description from, that should help you figure out what's wrong. So hopefully that was helpful. Data-driven skills says, in your last dialog step, the API success, you can't actually say the answer. You have to hand off to a dummy intent to do that. The intent then says the output. What is that in relation to? Oh, okay, sorry. I skipped Dana voice. Okay, this is probably Dana voice in response to this question here. So let's see. Dana voice says, hey, I just sent you an email. Hope that's okay. I'm trying to get a skill certified, and I'm told my skill stays open when there's no input expected. How do I easily exit an Alexa conversation skill? Yes, so looks like data-driven skills helped with the assist on this one. Thank you very much. So yes, through each turn of the dialogue. Okay, congratulations, by the way, Dana Voice. If you're trying to get your skill certified and you've already submitted your skill for certification, that means you are in good shape for the hackathon. That means you've met the requirements that you need to move on to the next step, which is to get your skill completely certified by the 30th of this month. So that's really awesome. Congratulations. And so what data-driven skills says here is correct. So if at the end of the conversation you want to end like each turn of dialogue, let me open this up. Here it is, console. So each line of the dialogue here, when Alexa answers, the microphone is going to be left open. And so when the microphone is left open, you have to have a prompt where you're asking the question what they want to do next. And so if the user is silent for 8 seconds, the skill will then exit. And, so one of the certification requirements is that you have a prompt before. If you're ever going to leave the microphone open, you have to have a prompt. And so since these leave the microphone open, and like, let me delete these extra lines here. So yeah, what data-driven skills is saying about having a dummy intent is if you want to close the microphone immediately after giving this API success here, you can create a dummy intent in your interaction model, and you would delegate from here to the other intent. And then when you do that, you would need to pass information between Alexa conversations to your interaction model. because when you delegate from the intent here, the attached, sorry, not from the intent, from Alexa Conversations, the associated response template for this line isn't spoken. So the response would actually come from your interaction model. And so what would happen is you would need to like pass that information. You can either save it in persistent attributes, or you can pass it over as part of the request. So if I go to alexaconversations.design/AC docs, that'll take me to the docs. Let me share the link to the main documents page. But if you go to work with Alexa Conversations and you click on handoff dialogue management to and from Alexa Conversations, this is the page that you would need. And this is the request format. And when you hand off management from Alexa Conversations to your skill, this is what it looks like. You have a dialog.delegate request. The target is the skill, and then you have this updated request. So any information that you'd want to pass from Alexa Conversations to your dummy intent in the interaction model would go in here. So you would make your API request, get the information that you need, then you would send the information from your endpoint via delegation to the interaction model. Then your interaction model would unpack that information and speak the result to the user. And in that case, if you're using the API, instead of using like when you're using the API, if you do handler input, response builder, dot speak, dot reprompt, dot get response. So you do something kind of like this similarly on when you're returning, and you'd have a string here, and this is what Alexa is going to say. And then the reprompt is, this will leave the microphone open and be the text, not test, text that Alexa says if the user is silent, can't spell, for 8 seconds. And then they get another 8 seconds after this in order to answer. And then if they don't, then the skill will exit. But if you don't call this, so like, let me break this up across multiple lines here. You know, this is a text file, so it's not quite as like, if I had a text editor, it would lay out a little bit nicer. But like you can see here, if we were to just remove this line and not call it, then it would terminate the skill. And so you would delegate from your skill, from Alexa Conversations to the request. You would send back any information that you would need here, and then you would just access it via the handler input dot request envelope dot request dot slots, and then you would get the slot name that you passed from your API. So hopefully that helps with that. Let's see. Yeah, data-driven skills says in your last dialogue step, the API success, you can't actually say the answer. You have to hand off to the dummy intent to do that. The intent then says the output. Yep. Code in the API needs to delegate to the intent. Okay, great. DLip says, thanks. I followed the pet match tutorial and it all works okay, but I cannot get the description part after the context carryover. I thought the problem was I was using payload.description instead of payload.getDescription.result.description. So I changed that, but it still doesn't work. Yeah, so the error message that you shared indicates that that's happening not in your template, but in your backend code. And so I think you're trying to call description in your backend code on something that didn't exist. So you probably have, and if you use the pet match example, you probably have like a JSON file So it probably looks more something like this: const data equals require, and then like the name of your JSON file. I don't know what you called it, foo.json. And so then what you're doing is something like this. And then maybe const description data.description, not data.description, result.description. And because this came back as null, right, then what's happening is actually, yeah, it's coming back as undefined. So it's like, oh, result is undefined, but you're calling description on it, and that's why it's throwing the error. So I think that's what it is. You need to take a look at, like, you know, do you have, maybe this could be, you know, maybe you have something like this. So in your foo JSON file, maybe you have something like this. This is just me thinking about what the problem could be. I'd actually have to look at the structure of your file. But, you know, and then this is the description. So when you know, let's say you had a dash here, but you don't have a dash here. If you pass, you know, that value to here, and you're trying to get that it will be null or undefined because it's not going to match. You know, the other possible thing could be maybe there's no dash here, but let's say that this is lowercase. That's not going to match. So you would need to do something like, I'm not sure off the top of my head if you do to lowercase or if it's that. I don't remember the function call, but you would have to call a function that converts that down to lowercase, and then that would fix that problem. So without looking at your code, those are the things that I think could possibly be going wrong there. Let's see. Data-driven skills shared out an example in the Slack archive, which is very helpful. There's a code sample in that Slack link. Cool. Thank you so much, Data-driven skills, for the assist there. Let me see what happens if I click on this. Sometimes it'll like open in a tab and then it'll ask me to log in. Yes. Oh, cool. Yes, let's open it up in Slack. Awesome. Cool. So this was a question that Data-driven skills had over the Slack group, and you can look through and see the thread here and see how he set it up. So thanks for sharing that link. Let's see, what else? Data-driven skills. Where would the code go? Yes, in the API handler in your backend. So the API handler sends the dialog.delegate. The dummy intent handler speaks the slots you pass from the API handler to the delegate. Yep, cool. Awesome. All right, and let's take a look. DLIP shared out some more information here about the issue that they were running into. My foo.json file format. Okay, so we got phase space 3. Okay, let's let me do this. This is JSON here. So I'm gonna cut that. JSON formatter. And DuckDuckGo has a really nice formatter one here. Ooh, got an error in this. Line 1. Why is this so small? Okay, let's see. What is wrong with the, oh, is it just missing a, let's see what's wrong with this. I'm just gonna start like adding closing. No, okay. Oh no, it fixed it. Cool. I just had to add a closing. Nice. That makes it easier to read. Okay, so let's go to the text edit and we'll paste that in. Okay, so there's a description here. Okay, yeah. So you've set this up where you've got uh, the key here. And yeah, so what I'm thinking is that, and you notice how you've got like phase and then space and then 3 dash neuroscience dash pediatric, and then you have a space and you have a migraine. I was going to say, you have a migraine here. I'm not diagnosing you as having a migraine. But anyway, what I'm thinking is your key that you're building to then, look up the description is not matching the key properly. So in here, when the example that you gave is this AMG 171. So if AMG 171 doesn't quite like as I was bringing up before here, like if this isn't capitalized, or if you have a dash here, or maybe you have something after this, whatever, that's not going to match, because the way how when you pass the code below on this line, it's looking for an exact match of the data that you passed to it. So that to me indicates what the problem is. And so since this is not matching, it's not finding anything, it's coming back in undefined, and then you call description on it, that's why you're getting this cannot read property description of undefined. So you need to figure out what the key is that you're passing. So I don't know if you're doing something like, maybe you're doing something like this, key equals, and then you're building out your key in some way and passing your key. So if you're doing something like this, you need to print out, if you're using Node.js, print out the value of your key that you're passing to data and figure out what that key is. Once you know what's wrong with your key, then you can update that key. One thing that stands out to me is that like you've got a 3 here and a dash, neuroscience, pediatric. Like you're gonna have to do, because the user is not gonna say like 3 neuroscience, pediatric, migraine. Most likely, it's probably gonna you're gonna collect some slots and glue them together, and so you'll probably have to write some code that like normalizes that input that came in, and then gets it into this key that you need to then look up the information. So hopefully that's helpful. And trade last, thank you. I see that you said missing and ending curly brace. Thanks. All right. So hopefully, Dilip, that gives you some direction here. One thing that I want to point out is, we are rapidly approaching the deadline, and the submission criteria. Let me bring up the page. I just wanted to go over that. Today, the deliverables that you have are to submit your skill for certification. It doesn't have to be certified today. You just have to have submitted it. So as long as you submit your skill, and then you submit a skill description, the video demo, and there's some other information on the DevPost website that you need to submit. But you need to do that by the 14th, which is today, by 5 p.m. Eastern time. I don't know, what that translates to into all of your time zones, but that's that's 2 p.m. Eastern time here in Pacific time. And so, in your case here, Dilip, like if you're getting close to the wire, what I would suggest you do is, maybe write some code that gracefully fails here. So like, you could do something like, instead of calling description here, before that you would say if result right, and so that way you're only going to call the description if you have one, and then here you would have some logic to fail gracefully, and I'll let you decide what you would do to fail gracefully there. Maybe you change your message, that you're going to send back the result or something. And then you can set up your APLA template. Maybe here you define like so what you would do is you would want to like create another property in your result that comes back that like indicates whether it's a failure or not. Then you would set that failure to true. Maybe what you do is you have a const up here, failure equals false. Then in this case, you do that, and then in your APLA doc, you write a when clause that then says, oh, if there's a failure, say this. So you could do something like that. And then later on, because once you've submitted your skill for certification for the hackathon, you're able to make changes necessary to get the skill to pass certification. So like what I would say, and you also have to have a video demo and some other information submitted by 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. So what I would suggest doing is optimizing your changes and towards getting this stuff in. Because again, you don't have to have your skill certified by today. It must pass by September 30th. So that gives you some time. And let's see if there's Trade Last says, oh, here we go. He's got another one here where he's got result.has own property fail gracefully. Yes, thank you, Trade Last. This is probably the better way to do. I just have if result, but this is probably the better way to check. So I would recommend using this has own property instead of if result here. So thank you, Trade Last. Yeah, and that will happen if there is a result. Oh, right. Yeah, so you could do something like this. You would want to combine the two. So that would be the best way to do this. So you check to see if result exists and result has its own property. Because I think if result doesn't exist, it will still throw the same cannot read property of undefined, or I don't know actually. I'd have to like run that, but thank you, Trade Last, for the assist. If you combine, don't include the thank you. Okay. There you go. In this context, yeah, you're right. Thanks. All right. So, yep, just wanted to call to your attention, yes, that oh, and some people have been like asking in the, I'm not sure if it's in, not validation errors, ask me anything. Where did I see people, certification? Yeah, there's been in the Slack group, people asking questions about like, hey, like this one here says your results should be available by the 24th. They submitted it on the 10th, which was what, last Thursday? It's like, wow, this seems like a long time. The Alexa Conversations, or the certification team, is prioritizing Alexa Conversations based skills, and these estimates here are very generous. They're usually coming in much sooner than what appears here. So don't be too alarmed if you see something that's like say for example, this was submitted on the 10th, and let's see, that was the 24th. So if you submit it on the 11th, that would be 25th. Let's see, 26th, 27th. So if you submit today, you might see like the 27th, I think, or maybe the 28th. But don't worry, that's not. I don't think you're going to be left with just 2 days to make your changes. These have been pretty generous estimates. So they have a team of people. I forget, on the last office hours I did, Jeremy was in the chat. He's from the team that does the certifications, and he mentioned that there were a number of people, and I think he actually gave the number of people that were looking at and like evaluating and certifying the skills. So there is a dedicated number of people looking at this. And so, the sooner you get your skills submitted, the better. Okay, here we go. Jamie says here, our estimate for certification completion is very conservative, and you should expect to receive feedback in 2 to 5 business days. Please note that you have met the requirement for the challenge as long as you've submitted your skill by the 14th, and if the skill is published by the 30th. You should expect feedback on the submission much sooner than the 24th. So, a lot of people have been submitting their skills and saying, look, this is quite a big difference in between when I submitted and when I'm supposed to get feedback. And so, don't worry too much about that. I think Joel, weighed in. I think he had, 48 hours or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was. But I know Joel weighed in on how long it took for him to get a response back from the certification team. Let's see. Oh, Dana Voice says, my failure came back in like a day. Cool. And then Karate TD says, mine took 2 days. They estimated 2 weeks. Yeah. Yeah. And then Trade Less says, certification submissions always give a 14-day estimate. All right, so we've got 12 minutes left of office hours, and we don't have too many questions at the moment. So if you have any questions, please share them out, and I'll gladly, try to give you some direction and an answer. But at this point, I would highly recommend, even if you have some bugs, like trying to figure out like what are the minimum things that you can do to like get it to a point where you need to go back, like for example, in DLIP's case, like this, like what's the easiest way how to get this to fail gracefully, so that way you can submit your skill and get it into certification, so that way you meet today's deadline. So I would highly recommend that you figure out, if you're in a similar situation to DLIP, because you don't have too many hours left, and because don't underestimate the amount of time that it's going to take for you to create your video demo. And there's been a few people who have asked questions on the Slack group about their demo. I'm not sure. I answered a question over the weekend about this. I don't remember which channel it was in. But some people were asking, like, what are your suggestions on what you should do for your video demo? And so the advice I always give in this case is try to keep your demo as short as possible. I think if you click on the official rules, I think it tells you the length of your video should be no longer than 5 minutes, I believe is, let's see, create a video. Let's see. I'm not sure. 5 minutes. Yeah, it looking for 5 isn't going to be, there we go. It should be less than 5 minutes. So, it says it should be less than 5 minutes. I would say try to keep it as short as possible while, demonstrating and clearly stating the things that you need to state. So you want to state what it is that your skill does, right? So very easily make that, think of it as this is your elevator pitch, right? And this is very, very important because, and that's why you want to keep it short and to the point, because this is what the judges are going to be looking at to, look at your skill and see what it does. And so I would suggest very early, very in your presentation, be like, this is what it is, this is what it does, this is how I use Alexa Conversations to solve that, and then do a demo. And then if you need to come back and do another sort of explanation of what's happening, then you can sort of move back and forth. But I would say don't underestimate how long it's going to take to create your demo. I know some people have been saying what should I demo it with? Should I demo it on a device? Should I demo it in the console? I would say that I've seen in other hackathons people demoing from the device and people demoing from the console. I would suggest if you're going to demo from the testing console where you're typing in, I would say a word of advice: make sure you narrate what it is that you're saying rather than just like typing without saying anything. You want to like speak and type at the same time. Or another thing that you could do is when you're in the testing simulator, I'll go ahead and switch over to that. Instead of typing into the testing simulator, you can press and hold the microphone button. Once this loads and I click allow here, you can press and hold this. And so instead of typing out, you could actually press and hold and show the demo that way. I've seen it done both ways. I've seen people do it on devices. Personally, I think it looks cooler when you do it on a device. So if you have the ability to test on a device, I would suggest doing that. But I understand that like some people don't have devices, so you can definitely use the console, or maybe you're building the skill for an on-the-go device or something. So maybe you test it using like the AirBuds or the AirPods, or the earbuds, or the what's the word I'm looking for? The Ring, or the Echo Frames. Let's see, I know Jeff Blankenberg has some frames. Kind of jealous. He doesn't wear glasses. I do. And I signed up to get frames and haven't been contacted yet. So he must have gotten his name on that list early. So yes, then here in the submission, it says like must include footage that clearly explains the skills, features, and functionalities through a comprehensive demonstration. So what I would suggest doing is just making sure that you just like I said before, like say very early in the video, like this is what I'm doing. This is the problem statement, and this is how I use Alexa Conversations to do that, and then do a demo and try to keep it as quick as possible, as short as possible. I've seen people do in the past. In fact, if you go to YouTube and you do a search for Alexa Skills Challenge, you'll be able to find people's submissions from previous years. And so you can kind of look through those videos and get some inspiration on what people have done. Let's see. Yes. And then you need to, when your video submission needs to be uploaded to one of these sites. So you can do YouTube, Vimeo, Facebook video, and then you provide that link on the submission form. And then other things you need to just to be aware of and make sure that you don't do don't include third-party trademarks, copyrighted music, unless you've received permission and you can provide that proof of permission to use that material. And then there's some Amazon community guidelines that you should be aware of. I'm going to go ahead and share the rules here in the chat for you all. Let's see. Joel says, okay, we got a few things here. Let's see. All right, let's see. Dana Voice says, I'm a bit overwhelmed trying to find the sample code in the Slack. Can data-driven skills guide me to that? Okay, I can see if I can post something to help you with that as well. I'm gonna quickly rapid fire go through some of these other things, and then I'll go back to sharing some of that code. Let's see. Driven voice says, search Slack for as to number 3. That's the entry with the code I'm referring to. Let's see. As to number 3. Let's see. What if I do in quotes? There we go. There's the one with the code. So if I copy a link to that, actually, instead of replying to data-driven skills, I will reply to Dana Voice. There you go. Try that link. Okay, let's see. TradeLast says, Dana Voice says, I used the PC Alexa app. That worked fairly well. Cool. I like that. TradeLast says, I used Keynote to create voiceover the video, then embedded an iPhone video of the skill running on my Echo Show 5, about 3 minutes of exclamation, 2 minutes of demo. Excellent. I like that. Hawk 2000 Echo Loop. It's referring to, I was going like this with my finger going, it's the ring. What is that called? The echo loop. Let's see. I know a Canadian that got his frames. That's cool. Let's see. Joel says, I did a conversation between Alexa and me explaining the skill. I have presented a demo. That's cool. I like that. Let's see. Cool. And then Dana Voice found the code. Awesome. Great. Let's see. So yes, I would suggest like, let's see, submission modification during the original submission period. So there's a bunch of different rules things here. And again, if you have any questions about the rules, if you go into the Slack group and you can ask questions there about the rules. But let's see, you can modify some of your submission stuff. I'm not sure if your video is something that you can change. There are some things here, like if you have to remove material that potentially infringes on third-party copyrights and stuff, you can modify. I don't know if you're allowed to modify. Let's see. Once the submission period is ended, you may not make any changes or alterations to your submission, but you may continue to update the project in your dev post portfolio. So I think, yeah, you can make changes to your skill after the deadline today to make sure that it passes certification by the 30th. I don't think you can make changes to your video demo. So what I would suggest doing is, making sure that your video demo is ready to go today. Let's see. Yeah. So in the case where you're having some problems, try to get it to fail gracefully, and then do your demo. And if what your golden path, so to speak, is not golden dialogues where everything goes properly without deviations from the interaction, but maybe you have a golden path where if you interact with the skill in this certain way, it doesn't hit any of the error messages. So maybe you put in the code that makes it fail gracefully. You do your demo with the avoiding those failure paths, not saying the things that would cause it to fail, then do the submission. That way you're qualified, and then you can go back and make the changes and make it better. Just trying to think, like, with the amount of time that you have left, it's time to come up with your strategies on how you meet the requirements and get your skill, be eligible to, go through the judging process. So as long as you get your skill in and you get your video, you should be in good shape. Let's see, we got, it's 10 a.m. So let's see if we have any other questions. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to Slack for the rest of the questions for the time being. Let's see, TradeLast says, thanks for all the help during the hackathon. Well, thank you. And it wasn't just myself. I have a whole team of wonderful people here that I work with at Amazon that have been very helpful and responsive in this. I don't know if Kirk C is in the chat today, but Kirk C has been answering and helping out during the office hours. Jeremy Hill has been really helpful talking about all the different things, regarding certification. Kavindra, Saranjit, Anirudh have been really, really responsive, taking time out of their weekend and over Labor Day weekend to answer tons and tons of questions that came in from you all in the Slack group. So I want to thank them for their help, sacrificing their weekend. And then also, being really responsive to like feedback and those items. So I think that's been really great. And then I also want to thank you in the community, all of you out there who are helping each other. It's been wonderful to see, in the beginning, we started the hackathon on July 22nd when it was announced, when Alexa Conversations was announced in public beta at Alexa Live. And it's been fun to see over these past few weeks everyone's knowledge of Alexa Conversations grow, and everyone's as your knowledge of Alexa Conversations has grown, your questions have become deeper and deeper and deeper, and it's really exciting to see the questions come from what is a dialogue to how do I daisy chain from one API into another, and how do I delegate from one thing to the next and back and forth. So it's been really, really cool to see that you're going very, very deep into this, and that you're all like sharing and helping with each other. So thank you, Joel, for all of your help in the chat. Thank you, Trade Last. Thank you, Data Driven Skills, for being on here today and helping out. It's a tremendous help. It just makes the community even better, and it doesn't go unnoticed. So thank you so much for all of that. And Hawk 2000, thank you. And just I just want to say thanks to everyone. If I missed your name, I'm sorry. Reach out to me in a chat on in the Slack group and just say, hey, you forgot me, and I'll be sure to call you out the next time. So good luck with the hackathon. You have a few more hours left to get your skill in a state where you can demo if you haven't created your demo yet. I would highly recommend prioritizing your demo and getting your skills submitted as quickly as possible today, so that way you can get your video in and ready before the hackathon or before the deadline passes. So good luck, and thanks again for being awesome and building Alexa skills, and trekking into new frontiers with new technology that is there to make more natural interactions. So thank you again, and until next time, I will see you in the Slack group, and I will see you later, and good luck.